everybody, good to be back with you. So let's talk some more synastry today and get through our Moon Jupiter aspects. Let's focus on the sextile and the trine, which are remarkably similar in synastry interactions. You're going to find that with most sextiles and trines in synastry. You're going to get a very, very similar outcome because they both imply an inherent harmony and always a positive interaction. So Moon is comfort, safety, security, regularity. Jupiter is expansiveness, adventure, getting out of our comfort zone. So Moon and Jupiter don't have the same aim. They are naturally in an inconjunct relationship to each other on the wheel from Aries to Pisces. We have a 4th and 9th house relationship going on here. So they don't share anything when it comes to modality, a way of being, a motivation, an element, because they're inconjunct signs to each other. Strangely, however, in synastry, that works. There's a few rare combinations that work in synastry, even though they're a bit awkward on the wheel. So the Moon in a sextile or the trine, the Moon person, in a sextile or trine aspect to the other person's Jupiter, feels very good around and about the Jupiter person. Because Jupiter encourages the Moon. Jupiter is that inspirational, encouraging, adventurous, expansive growth quality within us. And in most aspects to the Moon, Jupiter is a good contributor. Moon wants safety, security, regularity, which Jupiter isn't really after. But in a sextile or a trine, the Jupiter person does not disturb the Moon person. The type of behaviors, ways of being that are outgoing in the Jupiter person, they don't strike the Moon person as being fearsome or as causing tension. Because yes, growth is inspired, but it's not forced. It's inspiration, it's not control. That's what we're getting from the Jupiter person. Comfort, inspiration, input, a lot of input. We like to spend time with each other. These aspects encourage quality time and more time spent because we gravitate towards each other because we feel good. If we have aspects that are about high intensity, and we kind of get that double-edged sword, maybe it's the same thing, of tension and it triggering our issues, we aren't as drawn into a continuous, lingering appreciation where we have more time spent. We're going to have more of the back and forth or the hot and cold or the classic, pulling on my cord, dance of back and forth with that. So we don't get a tension that creates a back and forth with the sextile of the trine or most of the easy aspects between Moon and Jupiter. It's this feeling of wanting more and not wanting the night to end, not wanting the date to end, not wanting the dinner to end, not wanting the conversation to end. And it's very, very easy to pick up where we left off with these easy aspects. There's a feeling of being enveloped once again in comfort when we're with somebody or when we reunite with them, and it encourages us to just pick up right where we left off. There's no unfamiliarity gap or update or reassurance that we'll have to go through. These are constantly reassuring aspects to have, particularly to the moon person. Now, the Jupiter person is not trying to get anything for themselves out of this. They do get a lot for themselves simply because the interaction is so positive. But Jupiter's a superego. Jupiter's where we want to be right. We want to be supreme. This is where we want a virtue signal. And we want everybody to see how great we are. And it can be an obnoxious force within us, but all signs and planets have two sides. Jupiter's also a fabulous dude. And it is a very masculine, doodly energy to have her outgoing energy. And mixing with that feminine, receptive energy of the moon, where we are actually most vulnerable, and Jupiter can be where we're really pumped up and obnoxious. The moon person does not ever receive a message of needing to be careful because they're in danger of the Jupiter person's superego, their ideas about morality, rightness, superiority, ever taking over or having an agenda or pushing on the needs of the moon person. We just don't feel like the Jupiter person's pride, ideology is a threat to us. They don't use that against us. And so what the Jupiter person gets out of it is a moon person who just blabs away. They just have this emotional diarrhea. They're this open book that causes the Jupiter person to trust them quite a bit because they know what's in there and to be very interested. We learn about the moon person. They're like this new vista of finding stuff out and, a new adventure in learning about somebody and intimacy. And it can be a very satisfying dynamic interaction. The Jupiter person gets quite a bit out of it in terms of learning, growth. But see, they're learning from really the internal, emotional, private life of the moon person. So the Jupiter person actually gains a lot of information about us with these easy aspects over the course of time, particularly, that they don't try to hurt us with it. They want to be that safe harbor. And the moon person has this sounding board, you could say. Because as much verbal and emotional diarrhea as they may be inspired to spew, the Jupiter person just doesn't find that to be too much. They don't judge that. They don't think it's offensive. They don't think it's weird. They're happy to hear it and to experience it. It just, it's like it does inspire the moon person to really push out to whatever natal diarrheic tendency they have, what extreme of histrionicness, those aren't words, but they are now, that's going on inside of them. Whatever that extreme is, for different people, is going to be different. Some people are going to have a very mild, extreme end of the spectrum when it comes to what they can spew. For other people, it's going to be pretty dramatic, particularly if we have our own Moon Jupiter aspect in our own natal chart, and then somebody else is tapping into that. They can take that wrench and crank open the fire hydrant of emotional expression, and we can just spew it all over them, and they'll just stand there in this cascading rain of personal diarrhea, and it just doesn't bother them. We don't reflect to the Moon person, like, you shouldn't be feeling that, or you shouldn't be casting that on me, or that's not my business, or I can't take that. It is this constant reflection of support and encouragement, and that is why we get the continuous fire hydrant effect. It's the encouragement. With other aspects, we will, particularly with Saturn aspects or Pluto, different types of energies, will reflect to the Moon person, hey, that's inappropriate, or that's too much, or that's not my business, or it's not my burden to have. And that will create in synastry this immediate hammer that's brought down, this immediate barrier to the Moon person being vulnerable and known. And sometimes in synastry, that's justified. I'd say a lot of times it's not. And because it's when we do communicate those things to our intimate partners that, it's not for me, or I can't handle it, or you shouldn't have your feelings. When that's the message, your feelings are wrong, you shouldn't have your feelings, or I don't understand your feelings. That is a real cliff that can be hard to climb back up from. We don't get to that cliff with these hard aspects. We never have that experience with this in itself, because you can have other things going on. Keep in mind, you can have other things going on that are going to show a more complex relationship, but this in itself does show that consistent invitation from the Jupiter person, because it's the Jupiter person that gets the interaction going. They invite the naturalness of the Moon person's expression out first. And it is the encouragement of what they bring out in the Moon person that really creates this, what is the word? Perpetual motion in the relationship. So these can be valuable contacts, because if you do have a Moon position, if you have a Moon posture, if you're on the extreme side of emotional dysregulation or emotional expression, having somebody in your life where you have a good connection to somebody's Uranus, somebody's Jupiter, in particular those two planets, you can interpret that particular person as the one who can handle it. And not just that, they love you for it. And so that can create this bond, this feeling of, you're my safe harbor. You're the one who gets me. In the sea of insanity, you're my balance. And it's so strange, because that idea of the Moon person, of that balance, comes from them getting to spew and be imbalanced. But the Jupiter person really, because of their forgiveness, their invitation for us to share, their non-judgment, it causes us to, on our own, without force, to come into our own balance. Because they allow for this natural cadence of the Moon, whatever that is, because it'll be very individual. It allows for that natural cadence to occur. And the Moon person knows, they've lost it, but you know, they'll be back. And they just keep loving us through it as the Jupiter person because they know that that's the key. All right, that's what I got. If you guys are interested in my new Synastry composite book, stay tuned. I will be dropping that soon here in the next, hopefully the next couple of months. It's going to be extensive, probably the most comprehensive Synastry composite book that I know of. So keep your eyes peeled. If you're interested in appointments, I do have my schedule open. You can find me at my website, truthandaspectastrology.com, if you'd like to consult with me, and I will see you guys super soon with more super cool videos.